Welcome back to the Arctic Camper Van build. Today we're gonna turn this spare trunk into something looking nice and being super functional. And by that I mean there's gonna be some LED spots that will illuminate the kitchen down below. So let's get right into it. Now there sure are a few things that are gonna make this build a bit interesting. We gotta work around this windshield wiper motor. We gotta insulate it and we gotta run wires all the way through that conduit over in the ceiling up to the front where there's gonna be the switch panel. Yeah, that's not working at all. I think I gotta get out the drill. So I glued in 4 pieces that will support the top part of the trunk cover. And also I finished up the glue up, and yeah, I only have one of these large clamps. So maybe like and subscribe, so one day I might afford some more with the YouTube money, but that might still take a while. Now, as I said, there will be LED lights in here. So I gotta somehow wire electricity through, and there is one connection for all the lights. So let me show you. I'm gonna have all the switches over here, and I'm gonna route the power through the top and then through this existing channel. And since that's a super fiddly task, I ordered some stuff that should help. So let's see, what's it called? An electrical fish tape that I should be able to pull through the conduits pretty easily. So it's kind of a fiberglass material. I think it's super common for electricians, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. Leave your guesses in the comments how long it's gonna take me. I'm gonna go for half an hour. Yeah, because there's no way this will just lead to where it needs to. That's fun. That in just 25 minutes, so I think that's a win. But we still gotta go this way. Seems pretty solid. Nothing a bit of Vaseline can't fix. Overall, it took me just above 1.5 hours, and I'm quite happy. I couldn't have done it at all without this fishing wire, which was a last minute recommendation by Amazon, so I'm pretty happy about that purchase. Now, I went for a super thick wire because conduit only runs up to this corner, then there was no way of fitting any conduit into the trunk. Now, there will be a second line because I'm gonna have some moody LED lights on the wall, but for now I put down some blobs of glue so the conduit stays in place and shouldn't rattle on the road. But back to the wooden frame for the trunk. Now first I gotta square up this frame because I did a pretty bad job gluing it up, but nothing a few screws and some scraps can't fix. So now it's nice and sturdy to work with. I gotta prep it, cut it to size so it matches up with the wooden pieces we already glued in, and then I hope to get it in before lunch. So gotta hurry up. Well, that was quite a messy glue up, but I guess I'm just gonna paint the edges white in the end so that will hide all the black glue, and then put a piece of plywood that will have the same finish as the walls on the front. And then on top I added some little spacers, and onto here over the windshield wiper motor I want to put the same floor as I have down here, and then that should work as a little nightstand where I could put a cup of tea or whatever. So I still have some offcuts from the floor, but that's not gonna be enough, and the rest is under all of this scrap wood. So yeah, that's gonna be fun. Good morning, it's another day. I didn't film too long anymore yesterday because it got dark, but let me show you what I did. I added 2 more spacer blocks, so the frame is super sturdy now. And I finished gluing up all of these pieces for the back. Added 2 of these and some screws so it's sturdier. So today we gotta fit this piece to the curved glass of the trunk, which probably will be quite a headache. So let's make a template, cut this to size and get it installed. Oh, and also my apologies that it took me 4 weeks to get this video out, but I was sick for better part of 2 weeks and just couldn't get myself to build on the van. And now I'm finally somewhat back in shape. The weather has been phenomenal yesterday and today. So yeah, I'm feeling super productive, and as always, I'm really happy to have you here. So back to the build. Now look how well this fits the curvature. Couldn't have imagined it going this well. I still need to take off a little bit at the corners, then paint all the exposed edges, and then it's already time to glue this thing into the frame. Also the notches, we just chiseled out one over here and then a small one over here. Last minute decision, I opted to paint the top as well. Now it will look a bit different than the floor, but it's going to be much smoother to touch it, and it'll just give it a little bit more protection because I think there's going to be quite some condensation coming from the window, so I don't want that soaking wet. Now, one more thing I want to get done before lunch. The current kind of pull down strap is located near the bottom of the trunk, and the van isn't this high, so I can easily reach up by hand, which means I don't really need this strap. However, when I'm laying in bed and I want to close the trunk, it will come in handy. So I think I'm going to relocate it from here, somewhere over here, where there's a support. So yeah, I'm going to just put a rivet nut in and have a bolt and some spacers. So that's prepped for later on. And obviously, I'm going to replace this with, I don't know what, maybe I have an idea. So I just had lunch, but I actually forgot to show you what I did yesterday evening as well. I ran the second conduit same way as the blue one, and that will power some LED strips that will go behind the wall panel. Now this afterward is gonna be packed, so let me show you what we gotta do. First we gotta sand down the frame so it's gonna be ready for the plywood panel. Then cut this down so it's flush with the panel. Insulate everything. Then obviously glue in the top piece. Prepare the plywood and wire up the lights. It's getting quite warm though, so first let's pull the van into the shade. Installation is done, and that was a pain to work around all the cables, so I thought I'm just gonna do a quick time lapse. Now on to the exciting stuff, gluing in the top piece, so let's get that ready. Super happy with how the glue up turned out. Now I just noticed that it already gets so heavy on the trunk that the little dampers are struggling. Now it still works, but it barely pushes up the trunk. So maybe I really need to get those replaced. So to all the car mechanics watching this, please leave a comment if there's kind of generic dampers or if I have to use the exact model for this car, because I looked it up and these are 720 newtons and I didn't find any stronger ones for this Fiat. Alright, enough car stuff. I still have about 3 hours today. Back to woodworking, I guess. I got pretty lucky and found this offcut, which would work perfect for the shape, so I didn't have to carry up the big sheet. Well, you guessed it, it's time for another template. So the template didn't fit too bad, but there was still some wiggle room, like 2 or 3 millimeters, and that would leave a gap in the end. So I really don't want that, so I guess I gotta try a different method, but not today. I think I'm just gonna end the evening doing the electrical work, so wiring everything up for the 2 LED spots, so we're ready for that. And then that will mean the last piece is just the plywood. That should be doable in a day, but yeah, who knows. Good morning. It's such a nice day today. The sky is just completely blue. And I think it's safe to say that it's going to be one of the last few nice days before fall. So yeah, making most of it, and I'm super happy with how it fits. Now, I gotta admit, it took 2 passes with the router because somehow my washer contour trick didn't work, or I just couldn't follow a line. But now it fits real well, so let me show you that. And then we gotta cut the other 3 sides that don't match up perfectly just a bit more to size, because I'm then gonna go over it with a flush trim router bit after it's installed to get the perfect finished edges. Drill 2 holes for the LED lamps, paint the backside. Then I guess it's already time to glue everything in. And I'm not gonna do any sanding, finishing, painting on the front side before it's installed, because there's going to be quite a few more passes with the router, so I don't want to scratch it up right away. Yeah, let's mark it up, cut it, and get this thing glued in. I reparked the van and I was just about to get the paint, but it's giving me a hard time again. It barely wanted to start, and then through 2 errors that the passenger airbag is broken, but now that's gone, and the check engine light. So I hooked up the little reader and it shows this error code with the ECM PCM, and I looked it up, and that can mean that the voltage is wrong that the ECM receives. So let's open this up and check the battery. I had to take a look at the second battery because I couldn't believe the reading of the starter battery. It's crazy. Like, I don't even know how the car started. Just look at this. How is that even possible? So it probably is completely toast, but still I'm gonna try to charge it up. So I just turned off the ignition and now we're sitting at 10.3 volts. But yeah, that's, I think, completely undercharged. So once again, to all the car people, please let me know in the comments if you know what this error code means and if it's just caused by a bad battery. But that would be just super weird because I got it new like 5 months ago. And just recently I took the van on a 2-hour drive, so it shouldn't be empty. That's just really weird. And now finally back to painting, and then I gotta get lunch. Alright, so paint's already dry because it's so hot. The last step before we can glue it in is to drill some holes for some wooden plugs, because in the end I don't want to have any visible screws. Now that went in quite well, but I did notice a little problem in my plan regarding the flush trim bit. So I managed pretty much by accident to cut this side quite accurate. But over here, my plan was to use this flush trim bit, but it just won't fit in there, or just barely. And on the side over here, there really isn't any room to get it in. I'll still be able to use a flush trim bit, but I'm gonna use one that is much smaller in diameter. And since they're not available anywhere near here, I gotta order them, which means all the finishing is gonna be in the next episode. So thanks a lot for watching. Leave a like and subscribe. That really helps me out, and I'm gonna see you in the next one.